Welcome to the Top M&A Entrepreneurs. Today, my guest is Patrick Dichter. Patrick is out of the Midwest, and over a year ago, he acquired Apple Tree Business Services. It's an accounting bookkeeping service for SMBs. And he's actually got 2 LOIs out right now on the same type of business. Welcome, Patrick, to the show.
John, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and share my story. So
Yeah.
appreciate
This
you
is
here.
where I want to start because what were you doing before you decided to buy a small bookkeeping service?
Yes, I'll give you the long answer. I am not an accountant by trade. So my undergrad was international business and finance, and I got my MBA. I always enjoyed accounting classes. And then for 7 years, I worked for a digital marketing startup serving small businesses, and I led sales teams there all over the country. And then for 3 years, I was doing small business consulting, and we would help, Main Street businesses grow their business faster. And most new clients who came in had terrible bookkeeping. And that's kind of where the genesis started. And I was always referring the bookkeeping out, and I just saw how transformative it was to get good, clean books.
Yeah.
I had the itch to go do my own thing, and heard about people buying businesses, and the more I explored buying a bookkeeping firm, the more excited I got.
Let me
And
ask you a question. When you first got this little seed of buying a business, where did you head? I mean, there's a lot of coaches out there, a lot of directions, a lot of books. Where did you start digging into to find out, like, hey, this is a good viable option to go?
there were a few conversations that came together. I had a friend who told me about this idea of search funds, and I'd never heard that term. And he said there's a website called Search Funder, and it's the
Yes.
concept of people that go looking for one business to acquire, and it's a lot of MBAs and investment bankers and former private equity guys. And so I started to stumble into that community, and then during COVID, I kind of found small business Twitter, and there's a lot of people in there who go after small businesses.
That
And
I got to tell you, that's actually the second time I heard that because Michael Girdley uses that down out of Texas.
yeah, Gridley's great, and he's got a huge following on there. So
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
and then there was a couple of conversations that struck me when I was doing consulting. A guy came in who owned an accounting firm, and he had bought a book of business, and he told me just how many accounting firms are stuck in between this, like 400K to 750K in revenue, and there's just thousands of those all over the country because they can't
Well,
the scale and higher.
yeah. What is it? What is it? The owner doesn't know marketing, doesn't know what? Why
Yeah,
are
I think it's
they
like
get
the
the ceiling?
classic e-myth story, where like they're a technician, they're not a business owner or operator, right? So like they might not be good at delegating, or they might not be good at hiring, or they might not be good at marketing or creating systems beyond, Bob the CPA, right?
They're still
So
doing books for business. It's like
yeah, yeah.
business
And
owner is still doing the books.
yeah, so Bob or Barb or whoever it is makes, 75 to 200 grand, and like they just don't get beyond that.
Yeah.
So that was one conversation that opened my eyes. Another one that really got my wheels turning. I had a consulting client who owned a drywall business, and I was living in Denver at the time, and he bought this like expensive lot sight unseen in Denver because he knew that he could scrape the house and build a house. And his unfair advantage was his ability to bring in other contractors and leverage his own drywall business. And so he had this beautiful home like in Wash Park in Denver. And I was like, gosh, like I wish I had some sort of advantage like that with real estate. And then this light bulb went off, and I was like, well, I have a unfair advantage in that, like, I know small business really well, and I know sales. And so that was the other thing, is like, okay, where can I go leverage that so that I, you know, have my own unfair advantage?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's reinforcing the QuickBooks or the small business accounting. But when you started investigating this over all the other business models, I talk to business guys, acquisition entrepreneurs every day, like they want to buy a laundromat or they want to buy landscaping business, because it's reoccurring revenue. What
Yeah.
are the characteristics of a, bookkeeping, accounting business that you liked?
Yeah, there's recurring revenue, right?
Because you're doing the
There,
books every month. Yeah.
yep. It's a sticky client, right? Like once you're with one accountant, the switching costs are kind of high, like it's a pain to go find
Right.
somebody else and switch over. Um, there's pretty solid margin there.
What kind of margins are we talking about? What does solid mean to you?
So, bookkeeping, you're making like anywhere from like a 40 to 60% gross margin, right?
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
like, you we don't bill hourly, but an easy example would be, right? Like you charge somebody $60 an hour and you pay your team member $30 an hour, right? So it's like 50% margin, right?
Mhm.
Um, the other things that I liked was you have this platform of businesses who trust you, so you can add additional services, or you can, you know, create more offerings for those small business clients.
Yeah.
That attracted me to it. And um, the the other was the existing operators, which we talked about a little bit, right? Like most accounting firm owners just aren't great operators. Um, and I had a background in marketing agencies, and when I compare marketing agencies, I feel like those owners are sharper. The customer lifetime value isn't as long. The margin isn't as good. Your talent turns over more in marketing. And so when I compared that to an accounting firm, I just kept coming back to an accounting firm.
Yeah. Let me ask you about this. I can confirm the fact that it's very sticky because I used to work for Intuit myself. And when somebody bought QuickBooks, they just didn't leave QuickBooks.
Yeah.
They just, FreshBooks could come out, hey, we're better than QuickBooks. Yeah, but the switching costs are too painful to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But let me ask you, how do you, now that you're bringing your digital agency skills to market new business, it's then you're running up against people like, well, I've got this one accountant here that I already use. Why would I want to go to you?
Right.
Or do you go into new business or existing that
Yeah.
saying
So,
I'm unhappy?
right. The thing I've noticed in the sales cycle is they're either in two buckets. They're like, hair is on fire. They're like, please help me. I hate my current accountant, or I got this letter from the IRS. Like, I'm ready to move now. Like, they're not price sensitive, right? That's bucket one. Bucket two is somebody who's like, oh, okay, I kind of wanted to check you out. I kind of like my tax guy, but I might need new bookkeeping. And they don't have a sense of urgency, or they're not ready to move, but they usually end up moving into the first category over time. So you have to stay in front of them, right? So you're either looking for somebody that's like ready to make a move quickly, and you have to decide like how much of a mess you want to deal with,
Yeah.
or you try to nurture those other prospects. And then inevitably, when I just had this today, a person who said their taxes still weren't done, and they're just like, I'm just tired of hearing about my extension not being finished. I'm ready to switch, right?
Yeah.
And somebody at our firm had talked to him 2 years ago, and he remembered who we were, and now he's ready to make a move.
Do you charge kind of like crisis PR
No,
cases where someone's like, hey man, it's on fire. I got the IRS calling me. Like, you charge surge pricing for
we
someone that's in
don't.
trouble?
We don't. Maybe we should. We do a fixed monthly fee, so we do a fixed monthly fee that includes their bookkeeping, their business taxes, and their personal taxes.
Uh-huh.
That might be anywhere from like 500 to 1,500 per month. Now, if there's a good amount of cleanup or back work, we'll have like a fee for that, but we don't. Yeah, we're not really like chasing somebody that's like under audit or like needs IRS representation. So
Oh, there you go. You're
yeah,
just curious. Like if Bill Clinton comes to you, he goes like, got Monica Lewinsky problems. Like, well, you should have come to me yesterday.
right. No, we're not on that
Yeah.
level.
So fast forward, you decide to buy this business. Like, where did you find it?
That's another kind of hilarious story. I tried to work through the brokers in the accounting space, and they just wouldn't they wouldn't take me seriously, or they wouldn't put me in front of their clients because I'm not a CPA. So as much as I tried to explain, my business acumen and that I could grow a business and that I can replace the owner's billable time, there's a few brokers that control the space, and there's only one that would kind of like be open-minded with me, and the others just wouldn't. So I ended up having to do my own outreach. So I had a list of 500 firms that felt like a fit, and I created my own email marketing campaign, and 500 emails turned into 20 phone calls, turned into 6 letters of intent that I sent. And ultimately, that's how I found the one that I closed on.
Yeah. Well, so it's easy to get the addresses of those. How did you get the emails of those
I
individuals?
hired a virtual assistant that I knew from prior projects that is good at list building like that.
Yeah.
So he has a way
You're a digital marketing agency guy anyway, so you know how to do that. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And when you started that outreach, how what was the letter like? I mean, it was very simple. We're interested. If you're
Yeah.
buying, we're interested.
So it's short. The subject line said, John, are you ready to retire? Or no, I said, John, are you retiring? And I think that got enough people curious to open the email. And then I said, John, I've been looking for a firm to acquire, and your firm looks like a good potential fit. If you have any interest in selling in the next, year or two, I'd love to chat. Let's set up a call. And then that was it. It was short and sweet,
Yeah.
And
What was the criteria? 500 to $1 million in bookings, or
I don't think he had revenue per se. So he was looking on headcount. So I said, try to find somebody with at least 5 team members,
and you estimate that to be what revenue?
I mean, you might see like 100K per team member,
Yeah. Okay.
give or take. So I told him the states, the team members, kind of the parameters. And not everything was a perfect fit, but it worked well enough to,
Yeah, I have to. The reason I'm bringing this and so questioning, because a lot of people get stuck on this part right here where you're talking about. Like, okay, who do I go after, and how do I create a list of these people that I can go after, and how do I outreach to them? Is it email? Is it mail? Do I got to drive by and talk to them? Do I hit them on LinkedIn? What do I do?
Right.
And then they get overwhelmed and don't do anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's part of it, is you just have to start somewhere and tinker. And there are some people that write handwritten letters and that works for them. That's pretty time intensive. There's some people that, might do in-person stops. I frankly, I know some email gets ignored, but it seemed the most time efficient. And
Yeah. Did you do any direct mailing? Just physical letters?
I did not.
Yeah.
I know some people that
You didn't
that.
need to. Yeah. So how many people responded? Is in the 20s? Then you had how many LOIs?
So it was funny because the first send, I'll get into the technical details, but the first send I got like 5 responses, and I was like, holy shit, this is easy, and then my next send of about 50 people, like one person flagged it as spam. So my email open rates and like my
Drop because the IP started
like
blocking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then for like a couple of months, I couldn't figure it out. And I like hired somebody that helped me with cold email. And, I created another domain. I created another email. I warmed up that email. That's what it's called. You warm it up so that the deliverability goes back up.
Yeah.
But all in all, I usually get like a 20% open rate, and I think like a 5% reply rate.
Yeah. And how many, you set that to 500. How many conversations did you have?
About 20 phone calls out of that.
About 20 phone calls. And what did that kind of phone call look like? Was it asking you about, or you started talking about, hey, we're just looking for a business to acquire? And then
Yeah. My goal on that was to really just let them know that I'm serious and that I am a decent person. And so it's usually a 10, 15-minute phone call of just, they'd be like, all right, well, you reach out to me, like, tell me your story. And so I'd say like, I'd say something like, I've been working in consulting and I've seen how important quality bookkeeping is. And your firm looked like a good firm. So I'm looking for an accounting firm to purchase, and my plan is to grow it, and I know how to run professional service firms. And then I just say, like, tell me a little bit about your company. And
Yeah.
I would have read their bio and their website, and I'd try to. Some people would open up more, and some people would say like revenue numbers on that initial call. And if I couldn't get that, I'd try to get team count. So I'd say, like, how many team members do you have? And if they said 2, I knew that it was too small. But if they said anywhere from 5 to 15, like, okay, we're
Mhm.
talking. So then after that, I would have a short initial call, and then I was trying to set up a Zoom call next
Yeah.
to look at financials.
So phone call first and then Zoom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And after that initial phone call, I'd also send them an email that reiterated the points I said of why I'd be a good buyer. And I'd tell them this on the phone. I'd say, I'm serious. I have the financials to close, and I'll leave your team in place and take care of your clients, So
Yeah. So let's go back to this. You have financing in place. What did you have in place? Was you a search fund
no, it was,
or
no,
you
it
are
was just,
independent?
it was my own money and SBA, right? And I knew
Right.
that with my own cash and SBA, I could buy up to like probably 2 million comfortably,
Mhm.
by putting in 10% of my own money down.
And you didn't think about bringing either in any investors in this 10% that it was.
No, I wanted it to be my own for the first one. And I was like, maybe if I get good at this and I want to acquire more, I might raise investor money later. And honestly, that would just really stress me out to take friends and family money.
It's got an NFL club, no friends, no family left.
Yeah. So, yeah, I wanted to kind of just be me and control my own destiny, if you will.
Yeah.
So I know there's a lot of people that feel differently, or they'd rather go after a bigger deal with investors, but yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah. So this SBA bank, did you go with some kind of national SBA or was it a local?
The one deal that I had that fell apart, it fell apart at the very end because the SBA lender. So then when I had Apple Tree on the line, I courted 5 banks, and I was just like, I am not going to make the mistake again of like having financing fall through.
With just
So,
one SBA guy said, "Hey, we'll."
yeah. So I had 5 commitment letters, and then I narrowed it down to 2, and then I went with Bank Prov, who's a New England
I
based.
know that. Yeah, I've heard of them. Yeah.
And they seemed like they would move quickly. They seemed like they would close, and they offered me a bigger line of credit than the other banks. So, and it's been a good.
What did they like about the business versus the others that didn't want to do it?
Oh, so the other, I got 5 that
Oh, you got
wanted.
5 commitment letters,
Yeah,
right?
I
Okay.
got 5 commitment letters. Yeah.
Yeah. You had the money, you had a good credit score, you had a personal guarantee in place. The business looked good cash flow wise, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How many members, people on the Apple Tree services?
When I bought it, there were probably 12 team members.
12. So you're looking at a million. If it was 100,000, you're looking at a top line at 1.2 million, sort of.
Yes. Yeah, you got it. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
doing 1.2 the year before.
Yeah. Okay. And they like that. Every bank liked that. And the seller what was the reason for selling?
He was he's still a part of our team, but he was tired of being the owner. So he was like getting close to retirement, and he was like, I want to sell to maybe retire, or maybe just work less and not have to have the stress of being an owner. So
Oh, so he's an employee now?
yeah, so our purchase agreement, we closed in December. Our purchase agreement was that he would stay on through May, basically through the tax season. And we get along well, and he adds a lot of value, and he enjoys the work, he's healthy. And so we said we'd reevaluate in May. And so we're taking it year to year. So he's staying on another year. And
Yeah.
we didn't know that it would go that way. We were both like, we'll see if we
Well, I'm like, you don't know what's going to happen in 90
yeah,
days. Now.
yeah.
We'll reevaluate it. Like, that's
Yeah.
what I tell everybody. Why not sign for a year contract? Well, I don't know what's going to happen in 90 days.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know if you're going to like me.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did the SBA bank process when you said it was timely? What do you mean by like it? Usually it's 90 to 120 days.
Um, let's see. I probably waited like 4 or 5 weeks for commitment letters.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then we had, I think, we were basically on the same page with like purchase agreement and everything, um, like 8 weeks before close. But he wanted to close December 31st. So the bank actually had a good amount of like lead time. Whereas I wanted to close in November just to like, get it done and like have some time before the busy season. So all in all, I think most SBA lenders, I think they want like 90 or 100. They probably want 120 days from like, when they start to work on the deal to when it closes.
Yeah. So you had to borrow right around $900,000, 80% of 1.2.
Yeah.
And the business definitely could support what was the interest rate at that? It's like 6% over a 10-year
Yeah.
loan. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did 10% seller note. Okay, 10? No, 15% seller note, 10% down, and then 75%
Oh,
SBA loan.
okay. Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the business on the 1.2 million was doing about 330,000 in, cash flow to the owner.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
You can see what happens to owners when that happens. Like, hey man, this is a great lifestyle. Why would I want to do anything else?
Right.
You stay on the merry-go-round until you wants to sell the business to Patrick Dichter.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So how is it going?
It's gone well. At the end of the day, I feel like I bought a very solid business. We've had challenges with, being a little understaffed and like some change management, but revenue is up 25% year over year. EBITDA is up probably 30%. We're
And you
staffed up now. So
you brought your digital marketing skills to the business. And what did you change about that? Did you change anything in the business for 90, 100 days? Or did you wait? Or did you start immediately?
I didn't change anything early on. We closed and went right into tax season. So that kind of forced me to just like sit there and not change anything, right?
Yeah.
So after that, I just updated the branding a little bit. I changed our sales process to move a little faster. I also was willing to take on clients in other states outside of just the one state that we serve
Yeah.
previously. And um, I added consulting services, and then we staffed up properly. So we've hired 5 people since.
What was the consulting services that you added on? I love
So
these. Like, can we add on additional upsell, cross sell, downsell products?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's 3 of us now who do the consulting services, and it might be like a little bit of like what a fractional CFO might do, or like a fractional VP of sales, right? So we'll help with like sales and marketing strategy. We'll help with improving profitability, forecasting, budgeting, like overall business strategy. And typically they pay, 1,500 to 2,000 per month.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Consulting. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have to have a CPA accreditation, or was it a bookkeeping service?
So,
Or
so
yeah.
in the state of New Hampshire where I bought it, it wasn't like branded and a CPA firm, right? So that would have made it different in some states,
You
but
would have had to have the new owner had to be accredited.
yeah, or like a partial owner, I think would have to be a CPA, but because it's just business services, um, and he was very intentional about that, I didn't have to
Yeah.
have a CPA.
So you had this almost a year.
Yeah.
Are you enjoying it?
Yeah.
Doing what you thought it was going to be like?
Yes, very much so. I'm happy that I did it. I enjoy all the challenges that I'm working on. I feel like there are a lot of people that really like criticized like some of my plan or thought I was crazy, and I'm just like, like told you so, like
Yeah.
I knew this would work out.
What were these anonymous voices that were saying you got plans crazy?
Yeah, I mean, even some of the brokers, right, in the accounting space, they're like, you can't do this on your own. Like, you need to go partner with a CPA.
Oh, that's not true.
Or
I know that's not true because you can buy a bookkeeping
yeah,
in their
or there were even like accountants in the space that were like, do not buy an accounting firm. You don't want to be in this industry. Or
what
yeah,
would they say in the reasons for don't buy an accounting firm? I mean, why is that?
stress. Yeah,
Stress? Yeah.
yeah, stress.
Are you legally bound to have perfect tax returns and you're responsible for them if that happens or what?
I don't think that's what they're stressed about. I think they're just like working too much.
Yeah.
Um, the other criticism I heard from some people was like, why would you add on consulting services? Like that should be a separate business. Um,
Why
so
wouldn't you? What do you think Deloitte does and all the other big guys?
right.
Yeah. Like KPMG. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going well. And there's definitely, I still have days where I'm like just totally exhausted or, I think every night at 3:30 or 4 a.m. my brain turns on and thinks about all the stuff that I got to get done or what
Things you should do. Write
yeah.
that
And
idea down. Yeah.
there's times where I feel like we're not hitting our goals fast enough or I don't have enough resources.
Oh, that's every owner,
Or
man. Every owner thinks like should be growing faster. More people should have responded to that email. Blah blah. Yeah.
yes. But
Yeah.
all in all, I'm happy that I did it and I'm
Yeah.
enjoying that.
How's your wife been with this journey? I see you're married, but how's your wife been with the journey? She encouraged you. She was frightened, or she was what?
She's great. She's supportive. She told me, she said the first, once we started dating, you always struck me as somebody that would own their own business and like do their own thing. And I think so. My wife is a veterinarian. She's brilliant and like works really hard and like very medical minded. But when it comes to like business or numbers, that's just not her thing.
Do you do the books for
So
her business?
she doesn't own yet. So like
Oh, okay,
I
good.
wish
Oh, yeah.
she's an employee at a practice. But as we got towards the end of like closing, I was like, you should really understand what is going on here because I'm signing our life away. Like if this doesn't go well, like we're you know we're screwed. Like we have this debt that will follow us for a very long
Yeah.
time.
Did you weigh those risk of how often a CPA or accounting firm goes out of business and that
No,
personal guarantee and
no.
say,
I didn't try to look at the data on like how often CPA firms go out of business, but I did think about like, okay, what is the worst case scenario here? And so the way I structured the deal, I think mitigated that. So, the seller note is tied to retention. So like if the revenue dropped, past a certain point, the seller note would go away. So let's just say, for example, hypothetically, I totally messed it up and the business catered from like 1.2 million to like
500,000.
yeah, 500K, right? And I can't pay back the SBA, right? On that, right? So seller note goes away, but I could still sell that accounting firm, right? It'd be a shell of its former self, but I could still sell it. And then maybe I have like 2 or 300K to pay back to the SBA still.
Yeah.
I was like, that would suck. That would take a long time to pay that back, but I could do it. It's not gonna like, totally ruin our lives. So yeah.
Um,
And I'm just like, I think the other thing that's important when you're going to go acquire a business, you got to have a little bit of crazy in you or like a little bit of like, I'm going to go prove people wrong. And like, I was hell bent on finding a deal and closing it and growing the business. And there's no question in my mind that I'm going to like go do this and make it happen and grow it, and I think my wife knows when I get that look in my eye, it's like, all right,
what is it? The crazy look?
yeah, just like Yeah.
So what is it? Let me ask you about the employees. Do you have employees, or are they now people prefer to be contract?
They're all employees.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, that's been a big challenge or interesting to me, is like leading accountants, because like if I change the color of a pen, they're like, uneasy because
They do.
something changed in the office, right? So
Yeah.
I
My
definitely have to
God,
be
this is
very,
who brought the wrong coffee in. Yeah. Yeah.
I have to be very mindful of like the way I communicate and give them a heads up on things, and like try not to make them feel like I'm rocking the boat in their world too much. So
How do you like being schooled or learning those new schools? Like, because these people, they're different. Maybe they're like engineers, and then they're like, you need to be transparent and tell people about what's going to happen, what they may expect, etc.
yeah, it's been a big learning curve for me. I'm used to leading like sales teams, right? So it's like, okay, we're gonna go run up that hill, and sales reps are just like, all right, let's see who can do it the
What's
fastest,
what's
right?
the commission on that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
what's the commission? Who can do the fastest, right? And the accountant is like, well, did you, measure the slope of the hill, and like, what's the moisture on the grass, right? It's like, okay, like,
Okay. Are we going to deliberate this for the next week or what?
yeah.
Yes.
So, but I do feel like we have a very good team, and they love the small businesses that we serve, and they do a great job. And you know, I take ownership that maybe sometimes I need to include them more and communicate why we're doing certain things, to make sure that I have their buy-in.
Yeah.
So it's on me.
So we talked about in the when I first introduced you, you have LOIs on two more businesses. Are those accounting firms?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one's kind of a smaller accounting firm, and then one's maybe like 80% of our size. And those deals, here we are, kind of late August-ish. Those should close within the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah. And are those deals in New Hampshire? Are you going to roll those into, or are you going to keep
Yeah.
those separate?
I'd roll them in. One is nearby, and then the other one is a virtual firm. So, staff works remotely. The clients are nationwide.
Yeah. And so it's got a big online presence.
Uh, yeah, they have a niche,
Yeah.
in a certain industry, and they've done well in that niche. But
So that's a little bit of a different business model because your New Hampshire is kind of addressing local businesses there. But what is that?
well, yeah. So even before these acquisitions, I started to change the types of clients that we bring on.
Uh-huh.
So I've started to, just say like we'll service clients nationwide versus only catering to New Hampshire.
Right.
So initially, some of the team was like unsure about that, but I think people have come around more to the idea. And then this acquisition will definitely accelerate that as we, pick up more clients nationwide.
What was the resistance to picking up somebody that's in California and getting on a Zoom and talking about their
Yeah, I
QuickBooks?
don't think it was the communication as much as their thought was like, okay, we don't know those states and like tax codes. What if we make a mistake? Which is a fair concern, right? So for 3 or 4 months, I talked to a lot of other accounting firm owners who served other states. I'm like, okay, what's your thought on this? How do you approach it? And they said, well, we have, software that helps us. We have research tools. And if you're serving service-based companies, you're okay. Like once you learn a new state, it's fine. Where it can get hairy is if get into like sales tax in all these different states, right?
Yeah.
If you're serving like e-commerce or retail. So, um, and I frankly, I think that's just the way the world is going, is like more and more companies become remote, or people create nexus in all these different states where they,
Yeah.
operate. Um,
I don't think that those walls or walls are definitely coming down.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing was that New Hampshire is a very unique state with tax. And so they were used to looking at it through the lens of like, well, all these other people come to us with like Massachusetts strategy that doesn't work. And so they, because we'd always served this like kind of quirky state, they thought all the other states were going to be, you know, similarly weird to learn. And it's not like that. There's only
Yeah.
a few.
let me ask you about how you're going to pay for the other two acquisitions. I assume those are SBA loans also, or from cash flow from the business, or the.
Both. So a smaller one is just like, cash and seller note.
Okay, cash and seller note, right?
And then the other one is, another mix of SBA loans and cash.
And is there any restrictions on having a couple SBA loans?
No, it's through the same bank. You can borrow up to 5 million with the SBA. So whether you do that through one big deal or through multiple deals, but that's the legal limit.
Yeah.
And so after your first one, there's some banks that won't lend you again for a year. They'll say like, okay, you have to.
Right. That's what I've seen.
But my bank was willing to lend again, and so they reevaluate each deal. And then, it's collateralized. The second acquisition is collateralized with the assets of the first business.
Yeah. What did they, after what you've done to the business, what did they value that at? Just 30% higher, or?
They didn't run a value on the, original business, but they asked for, our up-to-date financials, and,
he liked it.
It's healthy. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good for you. So what's the plan? What do you want to grow this to?
So my midterm goal is to grow to 5 million within 5 years, and really get to know like a few industries well, and then start to acquire other types of small businesses. So we'd have this accounting firm that like gives us cash flow and know-how and relationships. And then if we want to go buy a HVAC company over here, or an e-commerce company over there, or like a commercial maintenance company there, then, the accounting firm kind of serves as like the mothership, and like the whole
and
show.
You would be doing their books for them and just kind of insert in their head. It's at some point, would you like to sell? Let me know.
You got it.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting plan there. What's next for next year?
I think the big thing is next year is continuing to improve our in-house technology. So we have a practice management software that's okay right now. We probably need to replace that next year.
Why is that? I mean, what's the I got to tell you, it's systems in place. They talk about the operational excellence, and the only way you can grow is because you have that operational and great systems in place.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just to be the next level of like tracking client communications and automating some of the admin and chasing that we have to do with clients.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. I'd probably hire somebody to do sales. I do sales now, so I'd probably hire somebody else to do that. And then just continuing to, pour more marketing in, and, add capacity with our team.
So help me out on this. Like what is the multiple, how does multiple sell for accounting firms? Is it like a one-time sale, or?
You got it. Yeah. So most trade for between 0.9 and 1.5 times annual revenue.
Annual revenue.
Right. So $1 million revenue firm generally is going to trade for one time, right? $1 million.
I got a CPA buddy. Why do they do that versus EBITDA?
I don't know. I truly don't know. I don't know if it's because like accounting is accounting. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, because like every other service business is on a multiple of profit, which like is fair. But where it can get bigger, the virtual bookkeeping firms, they'll trade for like a 2x sometimes.
2x sales.
Yeah, because they're very transportable, and they tend to be more scalable and just more.
Yeah, there you go. So 10 million is your number.
Well, I don't want to sell the original firm. That's not my plan right now.
Yeah.
The plan is to keep it and have it for intel and cash flow and kind of a base. And then
I'm just guessing, but I think that because accounting firms are so consistent from one firm to the next on their profits, they just do it on sales.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, because every other business, you say, hey, what's the retail, or what's this business, and it's a 10% margin, or it's a 20% margin. Inconsistent, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, man, I wish you the best of success in the future. I mean, this is
Thank you.
great detailed information because people get started. What do you recommend? Let me go back to this. I didn't ask this. Do you have any mentors or you join any masterminds to keep the big ideas coming?
Yeah, there's a lot of people I connect with on Twitter and look up to, and I went to a conference, the Holdco conference earlier this year.
What's it
And
called?
Holdco. So
Holdco? Okay.
yeah, people who are aspiring to build holding companies. Um, so that, helps me think bigger. Um, I'm in an association for our industry. So there's an association for accounting firms that serve small business, and I'm in that. And
Yeah.
there's definitely some bigger practices in there that
Are you a QuickBooks solutions provider?
oh, what?
A QuickBooks solutions
Oh,
provider?
quick. Yes. Yeah. I
Yeah.
thought you said quick fix. I was like, I don't know what quick fix is. Yes. Yes. Um, and mentor. I mean, there's definitely people that I've connected with that, I kind of consider informal mentors of
Yeah.
mine. So
That keeps you going. That's
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Patrick, look, we're almost 45 minutes, but I really, really appreciate the time with this because, I like to hear your story so other people can hear and go, hey, man, let's go buy a business. There's, baby boomers are retiring and
Yeah.
they're looking for somebody to take it over.
Yes. Yeah. I think, it's a great strategy to go do your own thing, and it's lower risk, and you don't need to create the next Instagram or WhatsApp. You can go buy a very profitable Main Street business. And
That's already flying. That's already cash flow positive.
yeah. Yeah.
Lovely. Patrick, thank you so much for the time today and
Thanks
happy
for having me.
Friday. Yeah.
All right. Enjoy the weekend.
You too. Cheers.